Alright, I'm gonna say it. This movie could have been freakier. I'm sorry, but how are you gonna make a movie about a man who pretends to be a dog, including dressing up like one and barking on command, and not have a weird, kinky sex scene? What, am I lying? 2022's Good Boy is a movie full of interesting ideas but is lacking in execution. Before I even get into it, I'm about to spoil the main twist of the movie, like immediately. So if you're interested in watching this film, then I'd probably leave now. This is 100% not a spoiler free review, okay? Are you all still here? Okay, cool. So, when I clocked what the main theme of this movie was, i.e., rich people bad, I was hoping that the film would have a lot to say about how the rich have power over the people that they see as beneath them and will literally treat them like animals as a result. I mean, not only is this something that I think most people with more than one brain cell can 100% agree with, to the point where it's just the default feeling people have about the rich, but with everything that's come out about the Epstein files, it's actually more prevalent of a talking point than ever before. Plus, it's not exactly a groundbreaking theme for a movie to have. There have been hundreds of films with similar underlying messages. American Psycho, Hostel, The Wolf of Wall Street, Parasite, Ready or Not, Get Out, the list could go on. So the movie should have been easy to get right. It had an understandable theme, a wacky premise, and potential. But, unfortunately, Good Boy shows us a rich dude being manipulative, being extremely abusive, and a bit of a psycho for the last 20 minutes of the movie, and that's kind of it. And yes, the main twist of the film is that this guy isn't acting like a dog of his own free will. Shocker. He's being forced to by this rich prick. Honestly, I think that rewatching this movie with that knowledge at the forefront of my mind was way more entertaining, because that means that he's forcing this guy to lay at the end of his bed. It's implied that he showers him and he makes him watch him exercise, and it's not a fetish thing.
Sure, Jan.
The main thing that I didn't like about this movie was that there's no real substance when it comes to the messaging of it, which I genuinely think is a massive shame. It's something that I found with a few movies like this that try to have a message, but they don't know how to make it actually say anything. Like, American Psycho is a good film, not just because of the acting, script, direction, cinematography, and the story being great, but because the way that it displays performative progressivism in the upper class while also showcasing the rampant misogyny, homophobia, racism, and general disgust for anyone who isn't a straight white man in these circles, to the point where Patrick Bateman will literally torture them to death for fun, is not only accurate, but terrifying. Whereas this movie just shows Christian, the main antagonist, doing rich people shit, i.e. treating poor people like dirt while pretending to have genuine moral values in one scene, with no explanation as to why he's like this, why he has an obsession with making people act like animals, how he even started doing this, or really anything interesting to explain his behavior. But before I get too deep into it, let me get introductions out of the way. Hi everybody, I'm Misa, and I love bad movies. And not only do I love watching bad movies, but I love talking about them and getting other people to watch them, because I enjoy making people watch the stupid shit that I like. Hence why I'm making this video. And another reason that I'm making this video is for my amazing patrons, Rob Slide, Fox, and James Horner. You guys are great and have been really supportive with my content and my artwork, so thank you so much. You're also very patient, and I really appreciate that about you guys. Now, let's get into Good Boy. So when I sat down to watch this Norwegian film, I didn't anticipate making a video on it. I was scrolling through Shudder one night. I know, I wasn't watching it on Amazon Prime, what a shocker. And by the way, not sponsored, but I recently bought a membership and I'm absolutely loving Shudder at the moment. It's a goldmine for good and bad horror movies. Honestly, you guys should check it out. But I was looking for something decent to watch while my husband was out, and I had a cheeky bottle and a half of wine. And when I stumbled upon this movie, I remember seeing it on Amazon Prime before, and I thought that it looked freaky but interesting. I mean, a movie about a guy who pretends to be a dog is inevitably going to have some messed up mental health storyline. Whether it be due to the man pretending to be the dog, or the guy who he lives with, surely. And I was all for it. I genuinely thought that the movie would be at least decent and explore the psyche of a severely mentally ill man who was going through some kind of regression. and thought it would explore something very uncommon and strange, at least when it comes to coping mechanisms. And initially, it seemed like that was where the movie was going. But as I was watching it, I realized that the movie wasn't really about the man pretending to be the dog, Frank, but about the insane wealthy man who was basically keeping this dude captive and forcing him to pretend to be a dog, Christian. And I thought, okay, interesting. Didn't expect this, but I'm still all for it. But not only was the plotline of this dude being a crazy Patrick Bateman wannabe very rushed, not expanded upon beyond surface level displays of him being abusive and fucking mental, but it also has one major plot hole. This guy is supposed to be a multi-millionaire, right? Like, he's absurdly rich in the film. But this is the fursuit he bought? Really, dude? I have Twitter mutuals on my personal Twitter account who have commissioned better fursuits than this, and they're all poor! But in all seriousness, my main complaints about this film are probably how much of a nothing burger it turned out to be. And the fact that the story could have been way weirder or deeper, and the movie makers didn't take up the opportunity to expand upon the strange-ass concept. And I think that most people who watch the movie agree with me based on the Letterboxd reviews and the fact that the worldwide gross for this movie happened to be a whopping $51,000. Like, I couldn't find the budget online, but regardless of what the budget was, that's embarrassing. But when I say that the movie could have been weirder or freakier, I'm not memeing. I'm being serious. There's a scene towards the end of the film where Christian is torturing Frank, right? And it's pretty grim, but he doesn't do anything that made me go, oh shit, or made me think deeply about the whole rich people bad messaging. Like, when I was reading American Psycho for the first time, because I'm a nerd and I really love the novel and I've probably read it about 3 times now, when I was hearing the descriptions of what Patrick did to the women he invited back to his place, it was fucked. Like, the rat scene, if you know, you know. The scenes of Patrick Bateman torturing the women in the novel, and even in the movie, even if that's kind of tamer, really emphasize how he doesn't see women as people, but objects to be used and abused for fun. His blatant misogyny adds to the themes of inequality and the rich being able to get away with literal murder, while also making you feel extremely uncomfortable. Reading those scenes is fucking awful. It's disgusting, it's terrible, and it ensures that you never actually sympathize with him as a character, and you want him to get caught. Which makes the ending where he gets to just continue on with his life and face no consequences for what he's done so much worse. Especially since you're not even sure if he actually killed these people, so there's the potential that he's just fantasizing about it and he could do it in the future. It's just confusing and depressing. And I swear to God, if anyone acts like, oh, spoilers in the comments, this movie has been out for 26 years as of recording this video, and the novel has been out for 35 years. Shut up and read it or watch it, you fucking losers. But with this movie, the scene where Christian tortures Frank made me just think, I just kind of don't care about what's happening right now. And let me explain through the events of the movie how I reached that point. So again, spoiler warning for the whole movie, so if you want to watch it before continuing the video, you can either be basic and watch it on Prime, or you can be cool like me and go watch it on Shudder. Again, not sponsored. I just really like Shudder. So let's get into Good Boy. Right, so despite what I've been saying about the movie so far, I want to compliment it a little bit. I really like the opening scene, which shows Christian getting some food ready and contrasting how he prepares his own food with how he prepares Frank's. And knowing from the get-go that he's forcing Frank to act like a dog makes this so much more eerie to watch, and I noticed it way more on my rewatch. The stark difference between how he carefully plates his food with how he just chucks Frank's into the bowl, almost with disgust? I like it, that's good direction right there. I do wonder how Frank eats with the muzzle of the suit being so long. is he drinking white wine with a steak. This uncultured swine cannot be rich. What, they don't teach rich kids how to pair wine with food? I'm poor as fuck, and even I know that you don't drink white wine with dark meats. But I'm also British and therefore an alcoholic, so... But anyway, the first part of this movie is to show Christian and Frank's daily routine of wake up, do dog shit, Christian maybe does some push-ups or goes for a run, and then they go to bed. And Frank lays at the bottom of the bed like a dog. And honestly, knowing that Christian is forcing Frank to do this stuff does make this movie kind of funnier upon rewatch. Like, if Frank insisted on doing this himself and wanted Christian to just placate him, that would be more interesting, because their dynamic would be concerned friend and mentally ill dude, rather than rich fuck and poor captive. But having Christian just be making him do this is just like... Why are you making him sleep at the end of the bed, you freak? Even if this is a bit, like, why? Nah, bro, I know what you are. So Christian gets a match on Tinder. You basic bitch. Honestly, when I was single and I was on dating apps, the second a guy messaged hey, I would get so annoyed. Like, is that seriously the best something you guys can do? Really? It's when they reply with just one-word answers and then they wonder why they can't get dates. Christian ends up going on a date with his match, Sigrid. And I can't lie, when we get to see the date, I was thinking the whole time that Sigrid was a bit of a twat. I mean, she turned up to the date very late. Like, he drank a whole pint while waiting for her kind of late. She didn't even have an excuse for being late, even a fake one, and just gave the Gen Z answer of I'm bad at time management.
Jeg beklager virkelig for at jeg ble så sen, altså. Jeg har egentlig ikke noen god unnskyldning. Jeg er bare veldig dårlig med tid.
And before any Gen Zers get mad at me, I am also Gen Z, and I hate that my generation says shit like this as an excuse to consistently be late to things. Time management is actually quite important to me, so I fucking hate this shit. Get better at time management. It's a very important skill if you want people to actually keep meeting up with you. She also wore sweatpants to this gorgeous bar overlooking the ocean. Like, listen, I know that Christian is a little overdressed, but he put in effort, you know? And then she looks at her phone during the date, and it's really clear through the dialogue that she's either looking up stuff that she doesn't need to, or she's just scrolling mindlessly. Like, how fucking diabolical is she being considering this is a first date? If I went on a date with a woman like this, I'd probably just put up with it because I become a melting mess around pretty women, but you know what I mean. But surprisingly, the date actually goes really well, and Christian decides to ask Sigrid back to his place. To which I was thinking, are you forgetting the guy that you're forcing to be a fucking dog? Because there is a massive chance that that would put her off, you know?
Har du arvet et sted, eller?
Ja, fra foreldrene mine.
Hvor bor ni nå?
De er døde.
Sorry.
Nei.
Jeg kondolerer.
Nei, herregud. Jeg beklager, jeg skulle...
Inheritance usually means that someone died, so I'm not sure how she didn't clock that his parents were dead.
Foreldrene mine, de skilte seg når jeg var liten. Så jeg har egentlig ikke noe nært forhold til de heller.
Did she seriously just compare his parents dying to hers getting a divorce? Fucking hell, girl. Fuck knows why, but Christian seems to like this woman, so she ends up staying over while Frank watches them have sex. A little creepy, but he is being forced to act like a dog, so I have to give him some slack when it comes to being a little fucking weirdo. When Sigrid wakes up, she has a completely normal reaction to seeing a guy pretending to be a dog, and is like, what the fuck's up with this guy?
Ja, det Frank. Hunden min.
I think with the context that he's making him do this, The fact that he's trying to act like this is normal is way more funny. Sigrid leaves, because why on God's earth wouldn't she? And she tells her friend about the date, to which we get a pretty funny scene of them watching a YouTube video about puppy play.
Mitt navn er Christian Ebeltoft.
Og mitt navn er Johanne Binder, og vi skal snakke om puppyplay.
Puppyplay er når en tar for seg personligheten og oppførsel til en hund.
I like to think that this isn't a real YouTube video and some of the producers just made this for the movie. Which makes the fact that they picked generic window movie maker editing choices and used the 2015 YouTube stock music even funnier. Also, her friend ends up telling her that Christian is a multi-millionaire, which makes her more willing to reconsider pursuing the relationship with him. Literally, I don't know why rich and hot isn't a red flag to women anymore. Have we as women not learned anything? If he's hot and he's rich, he has the means and the money to skin you alive and get away with it. So she decides to go to his house for dinner, and they discuss the giant dog in the room.
Jeg mener det er mange ting som ble sett på som rart før som er helt normalt nå.
Altså, det er et veldig godt poeng. Altså, hvis du bare tenker på hvordan homofile ble behandlet for et par 10 år siden.
Ja, nettopp. Bare tenk på hvordan det blir behandlet nå. Det er fortsatt kriminelt i 69 land.
Hæ? Nei, seriøst?
Verden er et grusomt sted.
I feel like this is mimicking the scene in American Psycho where Patrick Bateman talks about inequality with his friends to seem progressive.
We have to provide food and shelter for the homeless and oppose racial discrimination and promote civil rights while also promoting equal rights for women. We have to encourage a return to traditional moral values. Most importantly, we have to promote general social concern and less materialism in young people.
Patrick, how thought-provoking.
And listen, I know that I'm bringing up American Psycho a lot, but I really feel like this movie is going for that kind of vibe. This guy is clearly a Patrick Bateman archetype. Except in this movie, this guy isn't really depicted as sexist or racist or whatever really, to contrast what he's saying here like Patrick Bateman was. I mean, he treats Frank like shit, and he's a white man whose sexuality we don't know. So I don't know why this scene is really in the film. I mean, Christian isn't ever shown to be a raging homophobe or anything. If anything, he seems a little bit sussy-wussy to me. I guess this scene is to show that Christian does have some moral values and to help the audience gain a false sense of security, since we're not supposed to know that he's a psycho yet by this point in the film. But it just feels like a really out-of-place conversation topic. Frank enters the chat and does this.
Hei, du. Hei, du. Hei! Få deg vekk! Gå og legg deg!
I really like to think that Frank did this to piss Christian off on purpose. Like, oh, you want me to act like a dog? I'll act like a dog. Cute woman you have here. Would be a shame if a dog were to excessively sniff her. But despite Frank being a bit of a weirdo, Sigrid seems to want to be with Christian, and she ends up staying over basically every night for about 3 days. And she seems comfortable with Frank being around because Christian tells her this bullshit story about Frank being lonely and mentally needing to pretend to be a dog. And listen, I understand regression when it comes to mental health and needing a coping mechanism that's a little bit unorthodox. I mean, I won't get into my own personal shit when it comes to regression, but I draw shit like this to make me feel better when I'm depressed. By the way, message me on Twitter or Blue Sky for art commissions, links in the description. But the thing that I really don't understand is that even if she believes that Frank is doing this for his own mental health, would she really just be fine with a grown man doing this every single day when she stays with Christian? Like, what if they decide to have friends over, or she moves in with him, or they get married, or they have kids? Is she fine with him continuing to live with them and act like a dog? Like, what, is Frank gonna just be the ring bearer at their wedding and walk down the aisle on all fours? Like, do you see what I mean? Is she really just gonna accept this for the rest of her life? She's clearly not thinking about the long-term effects of this on the relationship at all. Plus, I also realized when I finished the movie for the second time for this review that we literally never find out what Frank's actual backstory is. Like, how did he end up in this situation? Was he actually friends with Christian, or was he just some random dude that Christian kidnapped or something? I'd actually like a sequel that goes over this, and I think that would be really interesting. Probably more interesting than what we got anyway. But anyway, Christian asks Sigrid to go away with him and Frank.
Hva var det du ikke skjønte med å holde ham på pinebenken? Er det ikke litt tidlig å dra på tur sammen?
Det var det verste som kan skje.
Bitch, have you watched Fresh? Barbarian? Any movie with a man in it? Like, what the fuck do you mean, what's the worst that can happen? I think you know what the worst that can happen is. So because Sigrid has the self-preservation of a person being eaten alive who has a vor fetish, she goes to a remote house with Christian and Frank. And the funniest thing about this part of the movie is that it confirms that Frank definitely can't eat with that muzzle on. Why are you lot eating pizza with a knife and a fork? I'm sorry, but man doesn't know how to pair wine and food, but he's so much of a dainty prince that he eats pizza with a knife and a fork? Seriously?
Jo, kom igjen. Tenker du ikke at det er en god idé? Du er jo alltid på den.
Jeg er jo ikke alltid på den.
Nei, men en helg uten telefon, det går bra. Bare tenk hvor mye koseligere det blir. Vi trenger jo ikke mobilen når vi har hverandre. Ok, se.
Greit da.
Girl, he brought you to a remote place where you don't have your own mode of transport to leave, and now you're letting him take your phone? Do you want to die? Despite this, everything seems to be going really well, and everyone's having fun. That dancing was the most psychotic thing that he does in the movie, by the way. But at this moment, Frank decides to let Sigrid know that she's in danger.
Vi må faktisk komme oss vekk herfra. Du er nødt til å hjelpe meg. Han er helt psyko.
Påfyll. Følg oss. Sigrid.
Hei, sorry.
Nei.
Listen, I know that Christian throughout the film hasn't really shown himself to be a complete psycho as of yet, so she can't really be blamed for not knowing that he was an absolute freak. But he asked her to go to a remote cabin after they'd been sleeping together for like 3 days. That should have probably have been a bit of a red flag. Like, that's moving very fucking quick. Even if he wasn't a psycho, moving that quickly in a relationship is never a good sign. Just PSA to all the women out there. Sigrid ends up throwing up for some reason. I wonder why the only female character who's been shown to have sex multiple times throughout this movie, despite the fact that it's only been literally 3 days since she started having sex, and this isn't something that would happen that quickly afterwards, would be throwing up. I wonder why they would emphasize the fact that she's throwing up in the movie. I wonder. Anyway, Sigrid asks to take Frank for a walk to have a moment alone with him to try and figure out what the fuck is actually going on. And Frank basically says they need to kill Christian.
Vi angriper ham mens han sover.
Mener du at du vil drepe han?
Ja, du er nødt til det.
And can I just say, up until this point, Sigrid didn't really have any issue with any of this. Like, she was mildly annoyed that he took her phone away, right? But just that. Mildly annoyed. And he has one key to the house that he's refusing to give her, which is pretty bad, to be fair, but she only freaked out about wanting to leave after Frank initially told her that Christian is crazy. Up until then, she's warmed up to the idea of Frank acting like a fucking dog. She's been happy to spend every single day at Christian's house and go away with him to a remote location. And only now, because Frank is telling her that this is all fucked, she's seeing the glaring red flags. Girl, I'm sorry, but you're an idiot. Also, she's just warming up to the idea of killing him immediately. Like, that switch flipped fucking quick. She hides a knife under her pillow and spends like 5 minutes of the movie being paranoid that Christian is going to find it instead of, I don't know, fucking using the knife? Like, if you're feeling unsafe enough to hide it, you may as well at least threaten him with it to let you leave. Honestly, I have no idea what her plan was here. Like, was the plan to just keep the knife hidden in case he, what, brings out another fursuit and is like, Frank needs a friend? Like, what? Plus, I kind of want to bring up the fact that, what do you think will happen to you when you murder a fucking multimillionaire, dude? You're not just gonna walk away. Christian ends up having a bit of a meltdown because she made the bed wrong or something. Like, there's 23 minutes of the movie left here, and he's only just started acting like a deranged lunatic. This is kind of what I meant when I said that him being crazy was a bit, you know, rushed. He drugs her for some reason. He just takes her to bed. He doesn't do anything else to her, and she wasn't exactly being hysterical. She was just clearly really nervous when she was sitting and eating with him. I don't really get why he did this.
Sit.
Get it, guys? Because he treats people like animals. Do you get it? Doesn't this movie have such amazing social commentary?
Sigrid hadde ikke trengt å ta opp samtalen deres engang. Frank kom til meg rett etter.
Frank! I'm sorry, right, but this following scene shows that they could have both just left and that Frank is being a little bitch boy. Basically, Frank attacks Christian, which gives Sigrid enough time to grab his keys and run away. And Christian takes an absurd amount of time to realize that she's left. I can't lie, I'm a selfish bitch, and at this point I would have left Frank for telling on me. Like, I'm sorry, but he's the one who suggested for her to try and kill him, and he was about to let her face the consequences of that, and basically went running to Christian immediately after suggesting it, like Randall from fucking Recess. Like, what a little rat! Christian gets big mad and decides to take Frank to a barn and torture him for a bit. And like I said earlier in the video, this scene feels a little underwhelming. It's also really all over the place. I don't know if the director was trying to emphasize Christian's frazzled thinking here and his broken mental state, but it kind of just feels like they wanted to shove as many torture methods that they could afford to shoot as possible in this scene. You cannot tell me that Christian isn't a little, you know. For whatever reason, Sigrid goes back to try and help Frank and nearly manages to get them both out of there. But because she's never heard of double tap, and Frank is slow as fuck, Christian knocks them both out. There's a time skip, and it's shown that they're still at the house. Frank is living in the basement in a cage, and Sigrid is having to pretend to be a dog in the barn. And I have so many questions. Firstly, how in God's name did Sigrid give birth healthily here? Did they bring a doctor here and just pay him to not say anything about the fucking man pretending to be a dog in the basement? Did Sigrid have to pretend to be a dog while giving birth? And if so, did they hire a doctor and Christian was just like, hey, don't worry about it? Also, did Sigrid's friend just never go looking for her? The baby is at least one. There is no fucking way that a woman who lived with Sigrid and who knew where she was when she went missing, who was supposedly her friend, wouldn't go asking where the fuck she'd gone or try to go look for her or get the police involved. Also, did Christian make the baby do this as a newborn when it couldn't even crawl? Like, what the fuck is this ending? Good Boy is such a frustrating watch. I genuinely wanted this to be a weird exploration of a guy's mental state deteriorating as he pretends to be a dog, but what I got was American Psycho if it were directed by someone who doesn't know what the word media analysis meant. I really wanted to like this, but it was just such a nothing burger of a movie, like I said earlier. And it had nothing interesting to say, and a story that relies on the main character being gullible and lacking any kind of self-preservation. In terms of ranking, I really had to think about it, because I don't think this movie is on the same level as movies in 0 out of 10 We'll Never Watch Again, or even Wow You Really Didn't Try. I would definitely watch this over Piglet or Rippy any day, and there's a part of me that thinks that there's the groundwork here for a decent psychological thriller, but I can't say I liked it anywhere near as much as Bambi the Reckoning, or even see as much potential in it as Smiley. So when I really thought about it, I decided that the only fair thing to do would be to put it at the top of Wow You Really Didn't Try. The thing is, I can see that some effort did go into this, but when you're trying to make a movie with a message, you need to actually deliver on that message. All I came away from this movie thinking was, wow, another movie about rich people doing rich people shit, how riveting. And I can't lie, it wasn't the most interesting movie to watch either. I wasn't necessarily bored watching it, but it wasn't that engaging. Other than the weird premise, nothing else about it really kept me wanting to watch it. But don't get me wrong, I don't hate this one, which is why it's at the top of this tier. The acting wasn't bad, the opening scene was solid, the premise is interesting until the twist happens, but literally everything else was either frustrating or lacking to me. Sigrid's character made so many stupid choices throughout the film. Frank was an underutilized character and was just kind of whiny and annoying by the end of it, and if I'm being honest, I didn't really feel that bad for him after he tattled on Sigrid. If anything, I was thinking he kind of deserved to stay with Christian if that's how he was going to act. I do know that they were probably trying to go for a cycle of abuse kind of thing and someone being trapped in an abusive situation, but it just came across as really annoying that he did that. And Christian was trying so hard to channel Christian Bale that it was so painful to watch. And there was no kinky dog costume sex scene. Yes, I am genuinely annoyed by that. But anyway, that was Good Boy. So, if you disagree with my ranking for whatever reason, or even the points that I made in the video, then you can let me know in the comments. Or you can also tweet at me. The links to my Twitter/X and Blue Sky accounts, as well as my Letterboxd, are in the description. If you follow me on Letterboxd, you'll see what movies I've been watching lately, so you can probably get an idea as to what movies I'm going to cover in the future. So I guess if you want to be spoiled, then follow me on Letterboxd. And for the generous people who would like to support me making these videos, my Ko-Fi and my Patreon are also in the description. If you join the Patreon, you'll receive early access to my videos, my artwork, and you'll get monthly commissions by yours truly, similar to these examples that I'm showing on screen now. So if that interests you, or you like the look of my art style, then you can become a member, or you can message me on Twitter or Blue Sky, because I do commissions separately from my Patreon. So just let me know, I'd really appreciate it. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!